Alright, with the NBA playoffs rapidly approaching, I wanted to talk about who has the most pressure on them. And this is always one of my favorite videos to make because I feel like it puts things in proper perspective, not even on like some hot take stuff, but when you actually sit down and think about it, it allows you to take a step back and really analyze where a lot of these teams are going, or maybe aren't going. But before we talk about who has the most pressure, I think it would be easier to eliminate the teams that don't really have any pressure on them. Teams that are early in the process or teams we're not really expecting much from. And immediately my mind goes to the Detroit Pistons, right? No pressure on them. If they get swept in the first round, still an amazing season. Obviously that's not what you want, but no pressure on them at all. A team that had all the pressure in the world on them a couple years ago, but now there's really no pressure, the Clippers. I think we're all just hoping they provide a entertaining playoff series if they make it there. Maybe earlier in the year we thought they could maybe upset someone, but they don't look great right now. Obviously the Norman Powell injury. And honestly, who's expecting the Clippers to do something big here? So I would say the Clippers, no pressure. Funny enough, the Lakers, I don't feel like there's much pressure on the Lakers. This was not a win now move. It became that when they started playing so well. But really, if the Lakers lose in the first round to the Warriors or the Timberwolves, would that be extremely disappointing? Yes, but you enter the offseason building around Luka Doncic and LeBron James, so the only real pressure there is LeBron is 40 years old, so you're kind of in the two timeline, but not really. That decision has been made. You traded for Luka, you're on Luka's timeline. If you happen to get one with Bron, great, but there's no pressure for the Lakers to get one in the next 2 years. At least internally, right? Us as fans, we want to see Bron competing for number 5, but internally, they know it. They're building to get the next championship roster around Luka, and if that happens to include Bron, then great. But in terms of playoff teams, those are the only ones I could think that have no pressure on them. I would actually say it's kind of hard to say this when you're the number 1 seed, but the pressure is really not on OKC. Like it is, but it's not, right? Because when I'm talking about pressure, I mean like if you don't win this year or if you don't make a run this year, things are going to change. If OKC goes home in the second round, I don't think there's going to be big moves made. They're just going to keep building going forward. So there is pressure on them being the 1 seed, Shea probably being MVP, but how much really is going to be affected if they lose this year? Like they're still going to continue with that same team. So yes and no with OKC. But then there are 2 other Western Conference teams that the pressure on them as an organization is not immensely high, but the pressure on some of their key players is immensely high. And I'm talking about the Rockets and the Timberwolves. For the Rockets, I think it is Jalen Green. As good as he can be, I do think people around the league and the Rockets front office are going to be watching him this playoff run to say, can you really be a go-to scorer in a playoff setting? Is it fair to judge him off of one playoff outing? Probably not. But if you're the Rockets and you have all these young guys, you might want to accelerate that process of finding out who's going to be a keeper and who's not going to be. They already paid Jalen Green, right? But I think a lot of eyes are going to be on Jalen Green from the Rockets and other teams around the league, how available he might be. And it really could be either or, right? Like if he balls out, the calls are going to be coming. If he doesn't, people are going to be trying to buy low. But I think his playoff performance is going to tell us a lot about their future. And the other team, the Timberwolves, it's obviously Julius Randle, who is going to be up for an extent. No, he has a player option this summer. Right now, I would say Julius Randle takes that player option of what, $29 million? You look around the league, I don't know what teams are, jumping to give him more than $29 million. And he's playing amazing basketball right now. He's in a good spot where their best player is not the heliocentric type of player. Their best player can play off the ball a lot in Anthony Edwards, so it allows Julius Randle to play that point forward role. But if he doesn't show up in the playoffs, or just Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid are better options than Julius Randle, I don't think he's getting this opportunity anywhere else. Name me a winning team right now that is going to welcome Julius Randle into their offense to have the role he has right now, where he is dictating a lot of their offense. Most teams are not bringing in Julius Randle for that. If anything, a lot of teams will look at Julius Randle as a great 6-man. And I'm not trying to put any shade on Julius Randle, but just looking at it, his skill set, most teams have other guys they want handling the ball that are better shot creators or better passers, right? Julius Randle is kind of in the middle on both of those things. So I think if it doesn't work out in Minnesota, I don't know where he goes that has a role for him this big. he can go somewhere else and be a super six man, but where is he going that is a winning situation? You know, because we could say he can go to Portland, or I don't know about Portland. We could say he can go to Washington, or who knows, right? Any bad team, but what team that is trying to win right now has that role for Julius Randle? So I think it's important that he shows he can live up to that role in this year's playoffs. Otherwise, it might be done for him with that opportunity. And just thinking out loud, the only team I could really think of that maybe would want that would be like a Detroit Pistons. Again, a team that is young, that is trying to get to that level. But even that, I'm not sure, depending on what the contract would be. So yeah, not the Timberwolves in general, right? They kind of rebounded here. We all know Rudy's old. We all know Mike Conley's old, but all their young guys are kind of flourishing right now. Jaden McDaniels looks very good right now. Dante DiVincenzo, after his slow start and injury, he looks good right now. So obviously they want to re-sign Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. That again puts more pressure on Julius Randle, because why are we going to pay you and Naz Reid? So yeah, Julius Randle. A situation where I feel like almost everybody in the building, the coach, the star players, the front office, ownership, feel like there's a lot of pressure on everybody involved, is the Milwaukee Bucks. And I just have to say this, not trying to start anything, not trying to have a hot take, but really, man, if Kevin Durant doesn't step on that line, what are we saying about Giannis at this point? Like, I'm just curious about that alternate universe that we'll never really know. But outside of that playoff run, he's had some amazing moments for sure, but he's had a lot of injuries now, and you got Damian Lillard. And now if you guys can't even prove you're like a conference finals worthy team, you have no real avenues to pivot. You just traded Chris Middleton for Kuzma, who Kuzma has been very good for them, but that was your move. And your only real logical move after that, if you guys go home in the first round this year or the second round, the only logical move is moving on from Damian Lillard. Like that's your only move you have. And I feel like if we get to that point where you're moving Dame, the Giannis question comes right after that, because you have nothing else. You have no young assets. You don't have a lot of picks. Brook Lopez on an expiring deal. You can't trade him. And I hate to say it, Bucks fans, but it just feels like this team is going absolutely nowhere unless you hit a home run on a draft pick, like what happened when you got Giannis at 13, or you got to get lucky like Philadelphia and get a Tyrese Maxey at 21. I don't know. It's extremely bleak with that team, but at the same time, Giannis can go dominate and be the best player in the postseason this year, and we won't have this discussion. But unless they win it all, just looking at this roster, looking at their young guys, looking at their pick situation, they are all in, and this is all they have, and it's not going to be enough, in my opinion. So just that whole organization in general, there is a ton of pressure. The other Western Conference team I really want to talk about is the Golden State Warriors, where they're kind of set with Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry. That's kind of set in place. That's going to be their duo the next couple years. That's where they're going, right? We kind of know it's going to be Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler. They got Quentin Post that looks very good. Pods looks good. Moody looks good. So they got Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, and some young guys. The other young guy is obviously Kuminga. In my last video, I talked about the pressure that is on him returning to this team that is rolling without him. But not only do I feel like there's pressure on him, I also feel like there's a lot of pressure on Draymond Green to prove his value, to prove that he's more valuable than Kuminga. But like I said in my last video, it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy with the Warriors, where of course Draymond Green is going to be more important if you build your team around Draymond Green being more important, right? If you have no starting caliber center on your team, well, yeah, the guy that can play center is going to be more important than the scoring wing or forward, obviously, right? But there is a world where you don't have Draymond Green and you actually go get a rim protecting center that can maybe stretch the floor a little bit. I know those don't grow on trees, right? But there is a world where you can build something without Draymond Green. And I feel like the Warriors and their fans and the media kind of like to gaslight us about Draymond Green. We understand his importance, right? But you're kind of building into that. And I have to say, I'm not the highest on Kuminga. I think he's a very talented player. I'm not sure he's going to be like a perennial all-star. If I had to guess, he's probably going to end up like a one-time all-star, maybe two-time all-star at best. Maybe he exceeds that out the water, right? But there's a chance this summer you give up on a young all-star player because you put him in a situation where he couldn't be that player. to build around Draymond Green and Steph Curry as your core, right? You got Jimmy Butler now, and that's what makes it more intriguing, because Jimmy Butler, if you watch the Warriors, does a lot of the Draymond stuff on offense. Again, I'm kind of in reruns right now because I made a lot of videos about the Warriors recently. But if you watch it, Draymond Green has been more of a scorer lately. I'm not sure the actual shot attempts reflect that, but if you watch it, Draymond Green is being put in scoring positions a lot more because Steph Curry is the one, or because Jimmy Butler is the one in the two-man action with Steph Curry. So all those plays where you see Steph Curry to Draymond to a cutting Kuminga, well, when Jimmy Butler's in the action, all of a sudden Draymond's in that cutting Kuminga role, and to his credit, he's scoring more. At least it seems like he's scoring more. I don't know about the overall, but we're seeing a lot more aggression from Draymond Green as a scorer. But obviously, Kuminga is better as a scorer. So I'm just interested to see that dynamic, because what if the Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Kuminga trio looks amazing, and Jimmy Butler is a better passer and a better scorer on the short roll, and he has the floater game, and he has the midi, and Kuminga's this monstrous finisher, and where's Draymond Green? So there's a lot of pressure on that situation. I don't want to overdo it because I've already made a couple videos about this situation if you guys want to go watch those, but Kuminga / Draymond, a lot of pressure on them. And I said that was the last West team, but real quick, I don't really know what to make of the Grizzlies situation. There was the out of nowhere Ja Morant trade rumors, but there is some slight pressure on Ja Morant to recapture that form. Now, I'm actually excited because Ja Morant is a playoff riser. In 19 playoff games, he is averaging 27 points, 7 boards, and 8 assists, and he's shooting nearly 36% from 3 on 6 attempts. Of course, you want to trust the regular season sample size more, right, where he shoots 31% from 3 for his career. But I actually believe it. I believe he's going to knock down threes in the playoffs. I don't believe they are going to trade him, but I do think it is important for him to remind the world who he is, remind the Grizzlies who he is. Like, Ja Morant already has 3 40-point playoff games, 47, 47, 45. And those were against prime Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green, and Anthony Davis. He's only played in 19 playoff games and he scored over 30 in 8 of them. So yeah, I'm not really sure how much pressure, but I do really want to see playoff Ja put some people on notice. Now, I'm not sure what to do with this team, the New York Knicks, because this is their team, and I would say this summer, if it doesn't work out, they should explore trading Mikal Bridges. I would say that, but they're not going to do that. They just gave up 5 first-round picks for the guy. They're not going to bite that bullet that early. You would look foolish, right? I would argue you looked foolish when you made the initial deal for him, but what makes it interesting is Mikal Bridges is going to be he's going to be a free agent after next year. And I have a hard time believing he's going to be worth whatever some team is going to pay him that summer. I don't know who it's going to be, but some team is going to give him like a 3-year, $120 million deal. That's going to happen. And in that year, Cat is going to be making $57 million. OG Anunoby is going to be making about $46 million. And Jalen Brunson on a discount is only going to be making about $40 million. Still, that much money tied into those 3 guys, are you really about to pay Mikal Bridges $40 million? So I think if we're being real, like if the Knicks can be real with themselves, I think there's a strong chance if the Knicks flame out that Mikal Bridges could be and should be on the move this summer. Now the question is, well, one, would the Knicks do that? I'm not sure, but the second one is, would he be doing that to trade for more role players, cheaper role players? Or are you doing that to swing for the fences to put a 3rd star next to Cat and Brunson? Because at that point, you might have no choice but to go all in. Cat's going to be 31 years old. Brunson's going to be 30 years old. Josh Hart's going to be 31 years old. Like, what are you doing at that point? I'm not sure. So I'm kind of just talking out loud because I don't think the Knicks would actually give up on Mikal Bridges that soon. But it's a possibility, and I think they should really look at that. Maybe a similar situation to the Bucks situation, although a little less bleak, is the Denver Nuggets, because at least the Nuggets have some interesting young prospects. They have a Christian Brown, they even have a Peyton Watson, who I think would have more value around the league than a lot of the Bucks guys. I don't want to focus on this too much because this one is kind of cut and dry to me. If they don't have a deep playoff run, I think Michael Porter Jr. is finally gone. We've been hearing that name in trade rumors for years at this point. but I think they need someone else that can go get them a bucket. I brought up Kevin Durant as a trade possibility for them. We heard Zach LaVine rumors earlier this year. We heard, what did we hear? We heard Brandon Ingram rumors earlier this year. So I think if they don't figure it out this year, they're going to go get another scorer, someone that can play off of Jokic, but also play without Jokic, that's not solely reliant on Jokic. To me, the obvious answer is Kevin Durant. If I'm the Nuggets, I'm giving up Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown, Zeke Naji, and a pick or two for Kevin Durant. For most teams, I would say stay away from Kevin Durant, but you have Jokic, you have Jamal Murray, you need that one other guy. I would do it if I was Denver, because Jokic, best player in the NBA, is only going to be that for a couple more years. You would think I would be doing everything in my power to get Jokic a second ring, and getting Kevin Durant, I think, would be a good fit for that team. I don't know about other teams with that team. And that might be it in terms of pressure on them. Like the Cavaliers, is there pressure? Sure. But kind of like the OKC situation, they're good. Maybe there's pressure on Jared Allen individually. Like if he doesn't perform in the playoffs, maybe he's under some pressure. But overall as a team, not really. The Celtics, there's some pressure there for sure, because if they end up with only that one title, it is what it is. We're going to look at it and say, everybody was injured, yada, yada. We're going to say that, and I'm not going to say we shouldn't say that, by the way, because it was what it was. It was a pretty easy way to the finals. That it is what it is, right? But if they go out and get another one, well, that validates the first one. That puts a different lens on Tatum, all that. And I do believe if they do flame out again, not again, but if they flame out, I think the Jaylen Brown conversation will tick back up. It will, because that's how things work. And again, last year was last year. I don't think we have to really like try to diminish winning a title, but we also don't need to lie to ourselves about what happened. They played 3 injured teams and then the Mavericks, right? I don't think anybody believes the Celtics are frauds, thinks they were an unworthy champion, but they're probably going to have to play 3 teams, or at least 2 teams this season that are better than the teams they had to play last year. That's just what's going to happen. So if it pans out that they play Cleveland and it just doesn't seem like they're actually close to Cleveland, maybe they have to reevaluate how they see this team going forward. But I'm not even going to talk about that right now, because people won't even understand what I'm saying, because they just won a championship. So it seems so inconceivable. So we'll leave it right there. Those are my thoughts on the pressure on all of these teams, these players heading into this year's playoffs. Should be an amazing show. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Please like, comment, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out. Peace.